What up racer, it's Jerone here and welcome back to another F1 2021 League Racing video. Today we are here for the third round of FRL around Silverstone. If you did not watch the previous video around Abu Dhabi, I would highly recommend you go and watch that one because it was quite an entertaining race, and if you don't want to watch the whole thing, then I would recommend you watch after the second safety car because the final few laps definitely were exciting. If you did not click off the video yet, well, too late because it's spoiled now. I'm currently P5 in the standings, P7 and a P5, and that brings me to this position in the standings at the moment. So today we're here for Silverstone, which is a track I really enjoy driving. I think everyone does, to be honest. And looking at the weather forecast, we have, well, a bit of typical English weather, I would say. It's raining in qualifying, and towards the end of the race there will also be rain scheduled. Now, because the rain basically only comes towards the end of the race, I didn't want to compromise my setup for the dry, so I'm going out with basically a completely dry setup in qualifying here. There are a few tricks you can do. You can still adjust your differential, especially the off-throttle differential is important to adjust a little bit when you're trying to drive in the rain with dry qualifying setup. And first I did 2 runs on the intermediate tires and put me P10 at the time, but we've already been dropped to P13. The best lap times so far are low 25s, so there should still be more than a second for me to find going out again. And you now join me just before my best lap, because going through Stowe I lose the rear end a bit too eager on the throttle, so decided to quickly cool down the tires a little bit and make sure I can go again for one more push lap to try and improve my time. I was up by 2/10 going into Stowe at the time, so let's see if I can do better this time. And I have quite a slow start to the lap actually. This right-hander, perhaps it was completely flat, but I was not exactly confident to take it completely flat. Then for this section you want to stay as tight as possible to the apex of the left-hander, which I completely missed because I think I locked my rear brakes and the car just sort of pulled me wide. So definitely a lot of time lost there. Somehow I'm still up on my delta, probably because on that first lap I also made a mistake there. And going through Lovefield, you want to try and get on the power as early as possible, which I did not really do because my line was a bit too tight, because I was sort of scared to run out. Then Cops, obviously not flat in the wet. Downshift to 7th was fine for me. I think I optimized the track width there. Going through Maggots, Baggots and Chapel, downshift for a right-hander, double downshift for the left-hander, and stay in 5th gear to try and get the best traction possible. And currently we are 4.5 tenths up down the hanger straight, going into Stowe again. Let's see if I can not make the same mistake this time. And I think I was a bit too cautious this time actually, but at least we don't lose a lot of time by getting on the power too early. Then going through Vale and the final corner, and we will improve by nearly 7.5 tenths, and that ends up being F35.3, which puts me in P10. And if you look at the results, I think there was a lot more in that lap because I made 2 quite big mistakes, especially in sector 1 and in Lovefield. So only half a second off pole, but I really think at least P5 was possible. And moving on to the race now, or actually into the race director. And I wanted to delay my decision for as long as possible, just to not give anything away what I would do for my strategy. But apparently everyone had decided to go for mediums, so no real strategy differences here as the 5 red lights are on. Trying to get a good start, and I think my reaction to the lights was very good, and immediately we get ahead of Sink Yogurt in the Haas car. So we've been promoted up to P9, going down the inside here, and I see someone spinning ahead of me, and as a result I also spin. Well, we are last. Not the start I was hoping for. Anyways though, I still have to try and catch back up, of course, keep a calm head, stay composed, and I think I did that, because you'll see in a few laps I will catch up again. But I think I just got a bit, yeah, I just lost my bearings a little bit when I saw that Alpine in front spinning me, and for some reason I didn't really trust the ghosting system, so I wanted to try and go around him, but in the end I think due to the braking there was still a lot of load on the front axis, and it sort of meant that by getting on the power the rear ends just stepped out, and unfortunately that had sent me round. But as I said, start of lap 4, we are back in DRS range, used quite a bit of battery of course to try and catch up, and for now I just wanted to stay behind a little bit, see how the race would shape and which DRS trains would form. And on the next lap, lap 5, there's been a little bit of an incident, I think, with Namsco and Aiden maybe, and somehow I really did not expect to lose the car here. I think due to Aiden's weird line, the airflow something got disrupted, which led me to deal with a lot of dirty air, and somehow I nearly spun again there, but I managed to control it. Then unfortunately just, well, lap and a half later, we are already back into the DRS range, as we have our first pit stop of Heyoo, who has had a little incident with someone we will cut to now. So this is the lead of the race, P1 to P5 still very close together, as Yannick tried to go down the inside of Heyoo, but actually that ended up giving Heyoo wing damage. Hence he has to come into the pit lane already, and in the meanwhile Aidan made a bit of a mistake going through Maggots and Beckett's, and this is just the unfortunate thing about the DRS trains. I sort of put on the overtake to try and see if I could do something, but quickly I noticed that Aidan was just using his overtake as well. And that's just the difficulty of racing on this track. When you're third car in a DRS train, it's just so hard. In the meanwhile though, it got extended to a 4-car DRS train because one of the Haas cars had a little incident, I think, and also total piece in the Alfa Romeo sparked up on the left there, so that's a free position. Back up to P17 in this race, which is not what you want to hear. And Aidan, I think, got caught out by the dirty air of that Haas car, which meant he had to give up the position to Kyle in the Aston Martin. And that means I'm still the 4th car in this DRS train now, as we're currently starting to dip into the 1 minute 28 and cutting to quite a few laps later. Front left tire is the tire that got worn out the most around this track for me, and it's on 40%, and just checking what Jeff is saying, and he's saying that weather is coming, that wet weather is coming quite soon. As a few laps later Aidan made a bit of a mistake in Vale, and that allowed Kyle to get a bit of a switchback on him, go down the inside, as I also had a little look, made myself appear in Aidan's mirrors, but I couldn't really do anything there. And yeah, at the moment this has just turned out to be a bit of a battle for the wooden spoon, as we're covering P15 up to P17 in this race, then going down straight, trying to go around the outside of Aidan, but unfortunately Aidan sort of got alongside with Kyle, and that meant there was no space for me anymore. Trying to get switchback down here in Luffield, which did not really work, but then on the exit here, down the old pit straight, Sink Yogurt suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and we're just with 4 again. and I really had to brake for Aidan there. I was quite scared to lose a wing, and he was quite slow there. I thought of sending it down the inside of Maggots, but I did not really want to spin out again, so decided to think better of it and just maintain P17 for now and just see what the wet weather would do, as in front of us Kyle and Sink Yogurt are going side by side, but I think Yogurt had damage and decided to peel off into the pit lane. So I think at this moment there are 2 cars in the pit lane actually. Sink Yogurt has come into the pit lane, as well as FRL Jeroen, and for some reason they both already decide to put on intermediate tires, which is very early, as the first drops are only falling right now. The track is nowhere near wet enough to make those intermediate tires work, so interesting strategies by them. It does mean we get promoted up to P15 though, as I will easily make it on tire wear. Left front is still only 50%, as in the meanwhile Aidan is trying to attack Kyle, as once again I had a little look down the inside at left field, but that space was going to close, so I'm not gonna put my wing in there and risk spinning someone else or spinning myself out. Then lap 17, getting quite close to Kyle, but having to lift again due to a bit of dirty air. And fortunately for us, I think, a safety car's been pulled out, so that means we can all make our first pit stops of the race. And I was really in doubt whether I should put on a set of slicks or intermediate tires. Even here at this stage I had not really decided yet. I still have my MFT on new softs, and thought let's just have a little look what everyone else is doing, as the track was nowhere near wet enough yet for intermediate tires. And I think here I saw quite a few people going for inters, so I also decided to go for inters. Then I had a little look on the race director, and literally everyone is on intermediate conditions or intermediate tires right now. Hence I thought, well, I'm in last place anyways, the track is nowhere near wet enough yet, let's just go into the pit lane, as we sort of had to slow down to not get legal overtakes, and that nearly cost me a wing there. So fortunately I didn't make contact, so I'm taking a massive gamble here on the strategy. The track is a little bit damp, but it's nowhere near wet enough yet for intermediate conditions. Thought let's just risk this, I'm lost anyways, let's just see what happens. And here in these few opening corners I was still trying to suss out what the grip levels were. And clearly I have a lot more grip than all the intermediate runners around me, trying to get on the traction here, and we're sort of alongside, but I felt like I was going to run out of room. And currently at this stage I'm on 2 warnings, so ideally I would not want to get my 3rd warning and a time penalty. So going into left field, and you can just see here how much more grip I have, easily pulling alongside the McLaren of Zach, unfortunately I think was letting his AI control during the safety car, and for some reason it decided to make another pit stop. And especially here going through cops, you can just tell I had so much overspeed on Aidan in the Red Bull, and very kind from him to let me go here, because he recognized I was on the much faster tire at this moment. And going through Beckett's, unfortunately I picked up a 3-second time penalty, but there's not too much time to think about that, as I'm trying to make a move on my namesake Jeroen, and we easily get that position done, as my soft tires really get up to temperature now, going also around the outside of Kyle, and we've gained I think 5 positions on this lap already. So we're making our way into the points slowly but surely, and these intermediate conditions on the softs are really working out for me, as Jeff sort of tells me that inters should be getting faster at this point, but if you look at the conditions on track you can't really see that, as I probably should have gone down the inside of Yannick there, as Collar Killer makes a bit of a mistake on the traction, and we're trying to get a move on this Hascar. making sure I get into the mirrors, Yannick decides to defend. Hence, he opens up the line a bit here for me to go down the inside at left field, which we managed to do as Collar Killer now completely loses it on the traction, spins out. And that's 2 moves in 1 corner, so we move up into the points at the moment. Trying to go through cops, carry as much speed as possible. As you can see, I'm still extending on the intermediate runner of Yannick behind going through that corner. So clearly my soft tires were still working at this point, but then I do make a bit of a mistake here, going through Maggots and Beckett's, trying to get onto the curb too much, which gave me too much rotation. And Yannick there sort of hit me on the exit, and that was a bit unfortunate because I can confirm that did give me a little bit of damage. And here we have a replay of the helicopter shot, and this is a really cool shot, I think. As you can see the Ferrari spinning in the background, and in the meanwhile you could just tell the grip difference was gigantic still at this point. And I think Yannick should have left me space there as I was still on track, but yeah, on the MFT it was not clear that I had damage, but clearly I did have damage because another safety car has been called out. And unfortunately for me, you will see that the conditions deteriorate quite a lot on this lap, on lap 23. So I thought there's no way this is gonna work. I will just drop back again under these safety car conditions, or after the safety car conditions rather. So I decided to just unfortunately take the pain of making another pit stop and putting on fresh intermediate tires. I should have the freshest intermediate tires out of all of them. I didn't show the full pit stop, but my pit crew did replace my wing, even though I still had it on automatic. So clearly I got wing damage from that incident with Yannick. And we drop back to P12 in the race now, but as I said, I do have the freshest intermediate tires out of all of them. A little disadvantage for me though is that I only just got onto the intermediate tires again, so I'm not really sure how they feel like when trying to push, as unfortunately FRL Jeroen spins, and well, it's not unfortunate for me because I get another position and only 1 position away from the points, but there's also FRL Ron behind who does not have a penalty, and I'm not sure. No, there's nobody else behind him. You see it on the minimap now. So I still have to get past 2 cars in order to gain 1 point in this race. So that means I'll have to make a move on Zach and Kyle. But as you probably know, it's quite difficult to get close to someone else on intermediate conditions. And since there are only 2 laps remaining, only lap and a half now, everyone was just spamming the overtake on every single straight, because we can just use 50% of our battery each lap. And here going into Ville, made myself wide in the mirrors. Then unfortunately I get tagged behind by the Red Bull, and that's just race over, of course. Yeah. At the time I was quite annoyed, of course, because I still felt there was a chance of getting points, but yeah, it's just racing, things happen, and I'm not sure what I have done to this corner fail, but this is what happened in AOR in the previous season, and I got wing damage here and lost a lot of positions on the final lap, so clearly this corner does not like me for some reason. And yeah, that was just race over, of course, coming across the line in P12. In fact, it will actually turn out to be P11, as Yannick got penalized for that move on Heyoo, which I showed earlier in the video. But yeah, P11, P12, it really does not matter too much. I did have a blast during this race. Under dry conditions, I knew I did not really have the pace to keep up with front runners. The front runners were doing like low 28s, whereas in my group we were doing 28.8s, 28.9s, which is also what I would do in clean air. So I don't think I would have had the pace to keep up with the race leaders, and congratulations to Gil and 2 others that made it onto the podium. Yeah, it was a really fun race. I really had fun trying to do a different strategy than everyone else, and it sort of worked out, but it would have also been exciting to see what would have happened if the full cause safety car was not called out. Anyways though, if you did enjoy the video, then I would massively appreciate it if you could hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye bye.